Our first item of business this evening will be the election of the city council. Councilor Johnson. I'm sorry, this is council president.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks. I'd like to nominate Denise Bacon for council president.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor
I'd
Corey.
like to nominate Councilor Stephen McKinney.
Councilor McKinney. Councilor McKinney? Yes, you like some? You're the only one's been sitting there. All right, you have one name that has been seconded and is nominating for council president. You have a second person that has been nominated. First person was Denise Bacon with a second on that nomination from Councilor Essen. The other nomination was Councilor McKinney. I heard no second on that one. All right, so Councilor McKinney is seconded. Councilor McKinney?
It's been a privilege to serve this last year. Been rather important. I think there's some key issues that we need to address. The first one would be a ballot measure that would bring the chief of police under the purview of the city council and not the city manager. We no longer have a fire chief that is under the purview of the city manager, and I think would like to follow suit, and I think that it would solve not only some present problems, but maybe some further issues that lie ahead for us here. That would probably take a ballot measure, but that is one thing that I would work for. The second thing is that I think that there are many unresolved issues in the present charter charter changes that we faced because of last November's issue here. I believe that this is going to, we've already had that discussion about the necessity for further fee increases and other ballot measures that will be going. I'd like to exercise some leadership in that particular area as well. I'm very serious about the chief of police bringing it under the purview of the council and not a city staff member or other persons there. So I'm looking forward to that. And so I think that there are some unresolved issues from last year that I'd like to exercise some leadership into concluding. This will be my last year of service on this council, and there are some things that I hope to accomplish there that would be kind of a resolution to some severe problems that we might be having within the next few months. Thank you.
Councilor McKinney, in his seconding message, do you have anything that you want to contribute as a candidate?
I've served as the council president for several years, and it is an honor to do it. It's a position that I take very seriously, and I have always taken it seriously every time I've been it. And I also, even when I'm not the council president, I also still act in a leadership position. Either way, the city is safe.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Essen?
My original position was the council should be passed around the council and not have repeating presidents. Had Mike Corey not have nominated Denise, I would have nominated Mike Corey, although I doubt that Mike would be able to serve. Beyond that, I guess I would be the next most senior, and I would also declined to serve as president. And so I'm still in the position I had, that this should be a position that's passed around the council. And so that's why I was the second for Denise. Not
you.
that I wouldn't have been glad to second Councilor McKinney, but that's my position.
Let's do a roll call on this one among the councilors. Sue? So we'll start with Councilor Bacon.
Counselor Johnson? Counselor Corey? Counselor McKinney? Counselor Bacon? Counselor Essen? Mayor Andrews?
I'm going to abstain because this is supposed to be a replacement for the mayor when the mayor is unable to perform.
Okay.
That's all the charter provides for at this time. Number 2, Councilor McKinney. Roll call, please.
Counselor Essen? Counselor Bacon? Counselor McKinney?
Yes.
Counselor Corey? Counselor Johnson? Mayor Andrews?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. So for Bacon, you had 3 yes, 2 no, and for McKinney, you had 3 no and 2 yes.
I would then, at prerogative of the chair to interpret the vote, the majority decision is for Denise Bacon to be your council president for the year 2018.
Thank you.
With that, I'm going to call for the city manager's report.
So, Mayor and Council, Joe Hannon, your city manager. I'll just briefly go through just the bullets over the last couple weeks. You know, most or a lot of the time we were in holiday enjoying the Christmas and New Year's session. But from the last time that we got together on the 18th of December, a couple things. One is attended the Washington County hearing on the TVF&R annexation, and this was a hearing in front of the commissioners, and as a result of that, the county commission voted in favor of the annexation, but they put it contingent upon a vote of the electors within TVF&R in Washington County. Estimated costs are about $325,000 for the TVF&R district, and there were a little over 100 people that filed the petition asking for a ballot measure. So the commission, not unanimously, but by a majority, voted to put that on the ballot. It will be in March. And if the vote continues as it was here, passing, then it will still be implemented July 1. And so there'll be a campaign that's run for there. The people in Yamhill County or Clackamas will not vote on this since we've already had our vote. Did a director annual evaluation. It's just a normal thing that every year we do an annual evaluation on each of the department directors and the administrative staff. Also worked with the finance staff on long-range budget proposal, and next week we'll have that same discussion about how to close the gap in the budget and then look at long-term of 5 years of where we are with the community. Also spoke with several citizens, maybe a couple of them here tonight, and talked about the animal shelter future and the sale and the article that was in the paper, and also talked with potential grant funders that look at animal shelter funding. Also worked with the Community Development Department, and this was on soliciting appraisals, both an appraisal for the Butler property across the street that we would sell, and also getting an appraisal on the animal shelter building and the land. That one we haven't signed. I think we expect to get it back. So it closed today, so we'll look at it tomorrow, hopefully within 30 days of that. Also worked with the finance staff on one that you're going to hear later in tonight's council meeting on Portland about a water adjustment proposal. Made several background calls and vetting, and this was about finding a trainer that will work with staff on communications, and it's really about some of the discussions that we've had earlier of improving the communications within City Hall and with particular departments. Attended the council executive session one evening. We held the weekly department meetings with Public Works, Community Engagement, and Finance, and then worked on a transit proposal that we've got a draft that will come back, start floating to Yamhill County from the city, and asking for several things, but probably the centerpiece of that is asking the county to consider purchase some land in the downtown core to become a transit center for us. And this is part of the master plan for our county and transit. We also worked on a draft ordinance, and it's still in draft, for council compensation. This is a outcome, if you would, of the council rules committee working on clarifying council compensation. Then we discussed airport development rights, and this is about purchasing the airport with FAA grant funds. So we've now believe we've got it clarified from the FAA of how we need to respond to that. We're now ready to work on a draft agreement between the city and Sportsman Air Park. Then we'll bring it back to the council to discuss the pros and cons of that before we would submit any application to the FAA. And then the only other thing is the bypass is coming up, and it will be open this week. Mr. Mayor?
Councilor McKinney.
On council compensation, when do you expect to bring that to council?
No sooner than 30 days. I'm just getting to the draft, and the city attorney's back now, so we'll work.
Any further comments or questions for the city manager? None appearing, then we will move to public comments. I have one individual signed up for public comments, and this is the time of the agenda for people to speak to things that are of concern within the city, but not those that are actual deliberation items on our agenda. And I ask you that you keep your remarks to a 5-minute period, if you would, please. And I have a Mr. Rick Lipinski. Did I get it right, Rick? All right, and I would invite you forward. If you would push the silver button on the right, your name, and you may begin.
My name is Rick Lipinski. I'm here to talk about Newberg Animal Shelter Friends and kind of refresh you all a little bit of our history. Newberg Animal Shelter Friends was formed in 2000 to raise money to build a new animal shelter to give to the city of Newberg. After 11 years of fundraising, we had raised close to $500,000, and the city agreed to contribute approximately $250,000 plus the land. We started construction in 2011 and managed to get a basic animal shelter erected, which Newberg Animal Control moved into in 2013. It was recognized by all parties that NASF would continue to raise funds to complete the interior improvements of the building. Then in 2014, the police department eliminated its animal control program. At this point, the city approached NASF and asked if we would take over management of the shelter. To clarify, NASF did not pursue this position. We stepped in to fill a need at the city's request. We had to redefine our mission and transition from a solely fundraising entity to one that also had to provide management services for the animal shelter. We did this gladly to provide care for the animals and do the right thing for our donors. It took almost a full year of meetings to get a formal lease agreement from the city. The lease terms were set at $1 per year rent, and the city agreed to pay utilities. These terms were in recognition of our willingness and ability to assume management of the shelter at no charge to the city. The lease was fully vetted by all concerned parties, and the terms were agreed to and approved by a unanimous vote of the City Council. Now, after 3.5 years, it's worth noting that NASF has actually saved the city money by providing services that were formerly done by a city employee. Since we have taken over the shelter management, NASF has succeeded in developing a successful shelter which now supports 3 full-time employees. At this point, NASF wishes to express our deep concern over the city manager's proposal to sell the animal shelter building. We are concerned for 3 reasons. First, is the city ready to fully recognize our cash investment in the building, currently over $636,000? If the full amount of our equity is not credited to NASF, then the city is asking us to pay twice for the building that we supplied the majority of funds to build in the first place. If a sale is made to a different entity other than NASF, does the city plan to gift the amount of our equity to that purchaser? Meaning another entity would receive the credit for our work. Secondly, we're proud of our ability to leverage funds to make them stretch far more than the mere dollar figure would indicate. To illustrate, we have seen hundreds of volunteers, including many local construction professionals and businesses, donate their time, energy, materials, and expertise to improve the building. Everything that has been done will increase the final appraised value. By increasing the value of the building, our volunteers and donors will be asked to pay again for their hard work and dedication. Thirdly, it's safe to say that these volunteers and donors, while they love the city of Newberg, are not there to dedicate their time and expertise to a city building. They're there to help the animal shelter that they built because they are very passionate about animal care. We're disappointed that after our many years of partnership with the city, we were not informed prior to the decision to put the shelter on the short list of city-owned properties to be sold. NASF, our donors, and volunteers deserve better. As an organization that has more than demonstrated its good faith regarding its relationship with the city, NASF is requesting that the city reconsider its proposal to sell the shelter building and accommodate a renewal of our lease agreement pursuant to Section 2, Item 2.4 of the lease that was unanimously agreed to by the City Council. And I quote, "Renewal. As long as tenant is not in default under this lease beyond the applicable cure period, if any, 120 days prior to expiration of the lease, landlord agrees to enter into good faith negotiations for an extension of or renewal of this lease." Thank you so much for your time.
Any questions or comments? Yes, go ahead, Councilman McKinney.
Rick, thank you for your comments. It's a timely summary of exactly where we are, how we got here. You and the committee have my full support in this regard. I think that this is an ill-founded plan to sell the animal shelter. If the animal shelter is part of a 911 shortfall, that 911 shortfall should have been, was noted long before the discussion to sell the shelter ever became a topic. Should have been a topic of decision coupled with the annexation of the fire department and the shortfall that would have been really anticipated with the passing of the charter amendment, where that $3.4 million should have been part of a major budget consideration rather than a $1.88 reimbursement, to the public there. So this discussion has been ill-founded from its very beginning. I want you guys to reach out to Mark Shelton, to Bart Ryerson, and others who were part of this council's major subcommittee in regards to that. I believe that in your remarks that you'll be asked to pay twice are very well founded. This has not been an agreement and a partnership that the council or the city has operated in full faith with you and the constituents that gave nearly $650,000 here. If something would happen here, I would hope that the city would be thinking about reimbursing you the $637,000 in regards to an entity to where your partnership will be disregarded. I think that from the release of the subcommittee to this is that you had a very shaky beginning, and that wasn't your problem. That was the city's problem in passing along a building and some other articles that would be attached to that building that the council fell short of performing in their promise to you. I think you have a sound agreement. I believe that the city should honor that agreement. I believe that if for some reason the animal shelter people found themselves on the outs, I would hope that the public would begin to demand that $637,000 in return. You have been great partners. The animals have benefited from that there. We have been the disappointing partner in this partnership. Your history is very well put. You need to garner the support of more of the community that's out there. I've been able to speak with some of your members here. I don't know how this discussion ever got propelled to the point that they would begin discussing the sale of that piece of property. This has been distressful to me now for months. There was a way to come up with that 911 money in a more reasonable fashion that should have been budgetary concerns. There were some things that came along to exacerbate that, and it's our fault that those issues weren't addressed to make sure that those issues, namely the 911 issues, were adequately taken care of in the future. I'm sorry for the position. This is personally from me to you and the other members of your committee. I am sorry that we have placed you in a position to where you have to come to a table and remind us of what our partnership really is. So thank you for your remarks. I hope that there are more people in the building this evening that can continue to address these. What has been proposed in regards to the selling of that facility does not honor the public's commitment to do things as a community, and this is very distressful to me. It does not speak well for the city. It does not speak well for the council. And I hope that you folks will be able to weather the storm, where we'll be able to come to a much different way to settle our 911 deficiencies without the selling of the animal shelter. That money was given. It needs to remain an animal shelter. I believe the partnership that we entered into with you needs to be honored there. I will do everything in my power to thwart any efforts to sell the building and to continue to honor your agreement there. I believe and I hope that there is additional support on the council to help make that come forward. Please speak with Mark Shelton. Please speak with Bart Ryerson and others within the community. I hope to hear from members on a weekly or on a bi-weekly basis of persons in the community that are here to speak in favor of honoring the partnership that we've made there. I hope that staff will have a change of heart in regards to this ill-conceived program here. But thank you very much for your support. Others in the audience tonight, thank you for your continued effort to speak to $637,000 that you gave out of your pockets to the city of Newberg. The city hasn't been a very good partner to you, Rick, or to your other people. And I want to go on record as saying that for you.
Thank you, Councilor McKinney.
Councilor Essen, City Manager.
I've been stunned throughout my time on the council to find how little support there has been for the animal shelter. But I understand, and my position has been, well, we've asked the city manager to come up with some ways to make the budget meet. So I understand what he's trying to do. But my wife has also sent me over there with kitten food when you guys asked for foods for the kittens that because you didn't have enough and they just got, I mean, this is a total volunteer group that loves animals, and I've never quite understood why we've had so little support for the group. I understand that what may be coming up is a bigger organization that is better funded, or they feel it'll do a better job. I don't know what's really involved with it yet. I know this has just been proposed, and at this time, the city manager is trying to deal with a shortfall. But I'll try to study this more so I have a better understanding of why we are where we are. I know that it's a wonderful thing that you do. And my wife has always said, God love the children and the little animals. They have no voice, they have no choice. So I hope we're doing the best thing for them. And because those are the constituents we have out there. And this is a tough job at this side of the table, because I know that the staff is trying to do their best they can to keep us funded. But at the same time, I've had calls from the community saying, okay, they raised this money and kept it going. City dropped it on them, and here they are trying to provide it at the city's request, as you say. So it's really hard for me to, I understand that there's been some issues and that there are some concerns. At least I've been told that. But I just wanted to thank you as a community, as the citizens for standing up and trying to help these animals. I appreciate it, and I hope there's something we can do. I don't know what that is. I don't know how it's coming. Staff is doing the work. We are looking very hard at a lot of issues at the city, trying to keep us afloat. So, but I just want to know, all to know that I appreciate what you've done.
Thank you, Councilor Essen.
City Manager.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Lipinski, and the others. So I'm the person that recommends this, and the article in the paper was pretty accurate. And I think that there's some useful kind of background that goes in this. First, thank you for stepping up. For a long time that the animal shelter and the community that came to raise the money and that have run the shelter has been a model of what volunteers can do in helping a community come together for the animals. And there's no issue with that. Some of the things that's worth emphasizing, what we talked before with this proposal, is first and foremost, what this is about is that our city, not unlike other cities, is constrained by how much property taxes and fees that we can collect. We do not have sufficient funds with the city now or in the foreseeable future to do one very major project, and that's upgrading our communication system. It's not actually dispatch, but we are part, by choice as a community, we're part of a system that allows us to use a 900 megahertz system, which what it does is allows us to communicate with the rest of the metro area, the rest of the state for our police, and by extension to fire. In order to do that, and we are in that system right now, so that if tonight, heaven forbid, we had a Cascadia or something like that, and we needed to communicate with others across the state to bring in some help here, our police and our city can communicate with others. In order for us to continue in that system, we have to upgrade with what we have right now to the tune of about $3.1 million. There's no taxes, there's no reserve sitting out there to do that, and we have to come up with $3.1 million. And we have to do it now. What we've done is gone to a bank and said, we'll borrow the money so we can commit to that, and now we're trying to pay that back. And that is the motivation for this sale and also the sale of the Butler property. And there's no way else. There was some suggestion that maybe a vote that had been taken that we didn't give back, or that if we would have kept the money, some of the property tax, and not refunded it, that's possible. But our voters, the rest of us here, said, no, we want the amount of money that we're putting into fire to not be double taxed. Therefore, give the equivalent property tax of $1.88 to all of us, which starts in July. That does not leave any funds. It doesn't give us the option of saying, well, let's keep the money and go for a communications upgrade. So, and Sue, could you put up the PowerPoint? So here in this room and on the internet, we spent several months talking about what are the options for us to come up with the money in order for us to continue the communications. If the upgrade is not made, we drop out of the system and cannot communicate with the rest of the state. And right now, it's okay. The rest of the county, Yamhill County, has decided that they do not participate in this. But several years ago, we said that we did. So in order to pay for that, and this shows up here on the screen, the kinds of things that we're talking about. It's to buy a new antenna. Most of the radios have already been replaced into the 900 megahertz system. It's to replace some communication dispatch equipment that we have. And then this computer-aided dispatch is part of a software that we share with 3 other counties. That's what has to be funded. And so that's what we've been working on for about 6 months, very visible. And I know sometimes it's not the most exciting thing to come down to a council or even to go on the internet to look. But through the paper and other places, we've tried to be and very visible about that. Okay, then, okay. Now we'll go to the next one. The next option was how to pay for it. And this is what we've done in council work session and also been to the paper. So we're talking about, and I'm the one that recommends these things, and it's really important to know that the council has not made a decision on this. But it's also important to know that this is what I'm recommending to them, and we've had these discussions about looking for places to get money to pay for the communication, which has to happen now. So as we've looked at how to find the money for it, we look to first to say, does the city have any property at all that we could sell to do this? The city doesn't. We don't have surplus properties around to do it. We have one property across the street, which is the Butler property that's empty. And I think you heard a little bit earlier, the first step is to get an appraisal. And then we'll try to sell that to go towards it. The second one is that the animal shelter sits on some city property there, and that's something else, and that's what I'm also recommending, getting an appraisal and to sell that. Now, what was in the article, and it's still very valid and accurate, is that my recommendation is not to sell that, for example, like go out on the market, find an industrial user there, and stop the animal shelter. At no part of this discussion has ever been that the function of the animal shelter should disappear. Never suggested, and that's never what I would recommend. The other part that's been very clear in all this is to recognize the donations that have been made and the improvements. And part of that is to get the information from the animal shelter, the friends, that we take that and compare that to what the city has of construction costs. Again, very visible, saying that, and I've requested that information. And before a recommendation comes back to the council about the sale of it, we will recognize, my recommendation will be to recognize that those donations have been made and the improvements in any kind of a sale. And that's been very clear, and that's still what would be my recommendation to hear. It's a very difficult situation that we're all in. You know, that both the county and the city has gotten out of the business of animal control. Again, there's only certain amounts of money that we pay in property taxes to go for the city services. And we, as a state and as a community, have limited the amount that we tax ourselves with property taxes. Right now, the total amount of money that we collect in property tax does not even cover the police department. And the priority service of the city that's been stated publicly, and we do, is public safety first. So right now, we're not collecting enough in property tax to pay that. It's supplemented for other fees that we get in the city. So, like other cities, we have been forced to do things like look for other places, try to raise fees in some cases, but also to just say we cut some services. And like the county, we got rid of animal control a while back. And the people, the Friends, stepped up and do that. We're at that situation again. We do not have sufficient money, and you can't just create it, unfortunately, or create new monies like go into debt to pay for the communications upgrade. So as we get the first step here, which I said at the last meeting and here, is to get an appraisal. We pulled the property, we figured out what would it take to separate the basically 1 acre that the land sits on, to separate that off as a parcel, and then get an appraisal where that is, get the amount of money that the city has put into it, get the amount that has that what the Friends says, hey, here's our bills and here's what we put in, and recognize that before it comes back to the council. And that'll be all very public, just like all of this has been up to the point. No one likes to cut back services, but one thing is very clear, that the city's priority is in public safety. And when you have that with police, and now fires with TVF&R, and the voters that support fire, there isn't a lot of money for other things that are out there. So that's, Mayor, that's kind of as best as I can do to explain it. But this has been very visible, very transparent in all of our meetings and stuff. And the paper's done a good job at covering that. And that's what it'll continue to do. We get this information. First one is appraisal. Second one is to collect the information that the Friends have, compare that, and then I'll come back to the City Council with that in a public hearing, just like we are this evening.
Follow on, Stephen McKinney.
Thanks for the explanation. The transparency doesn't make it hurt any less, and it doesn't necessarily take the smell away from this particular situation. I believe that this goes clear back to the point in time where this council was asked to act upon the recommendation to put forward a motion that would allow the vote on the charter amendment. Mr. Johnson and myself voted no. Had Mike been here, I understand that would have been a no motion, and that resolution to put forward that motion would have died a violent death here, 3-3, and it wouldn't have gone. It would have allowed our city manager to put together a city budget based upon $4.38, and we wouldn't have the nonsense of dealing with the charter amendment here. That's what it really goes back to. It's not that we haven't had a 5-year adequate planning here or whatever. The smell is that we have entered into a partnership with you and your group, and there's been a substantial donation to that. And I'm trying to come up with how do you tell a group of citizens who raised that kind of money, thanks, but we're still going to kind of go down a road that, still goes there. I know that Denise Bacon has gone on record as saying is that location will always be an animal shelter and everything else, but we still need to honor the agreement that we made with you guys, not somebody else, about something else. You're not in violation of your contract. In fact, your contract says that you're doing well and it's time to re-enter a negotiation period about the renewal of your group there. So, and I understand Joe's predicament here, but this council could have avoided that, and there wouldn't have been a vote in November for the wrecking of our charter amendment here. That lies solely here at this table, all right? And I know that one particular member regrets that he wasn't here that night to make sure that that didn't happen. But trying to put together a budget on $2.50 per thousand makes us do stupid things, and one of those things is that the appraisal that they will receive on your particular piece of property really it doesn't address a $3.1 million solution to the problem. All right? So when we come down into real terms of reality here, let's focus on things that really make a difference. That difference is let's rectify the things that keep us from raising 4.3879 blah, 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 blah cents and whatever in raising a sufficient city budget so that the city of Newberg can continue to be a well-governed, well-oiled, well-proportioned city here. So, again, I appreciate the explanation, but some of this could have been avoided. In fact, all of it could have been avoided. That's on the record tonight. All of it could have been avoided, and we could be raising a budget with sufficient funds to be able to do this. So the transparency, I'm glad for the transparency, but the wound still hurts. I'm glad for the explanation, but it still stinks to high heaven in relationship to what we're doing here or whatever. I'm glad that you guys are around. I'm hoping that you'll continue to be around. There are people sitting at this table that will continue to support what you want, and there are different kinds of energies that need to be reapplied to solve the council's problem of raising sufficient funds to govern the city here. The animal shelter doesn't amount to a hill of beans in relationship to taking care of a $3.1 million problem there. We've known about this 800 megahertz system for a long time. We've been in there. We've known for a long time that it was going to cost millions of dollars. There was a gal from WICA that sat in your very chair. I asked her point blank, how many dollars? How many at all, Rick? So I could belabor this forever, but and the mayor's hoping that I don't.
Thank you, Councilor McKinney.
Any further comments? Thank you for your input. I appreciate it very much, Rick. I do have one question. It's been asked, and I thought I've seen it on the exchanges of some emails that have been floating around. Were the council to pursue the concept of selling that particular piece of property, does the Newberg Animal Friends or whatever organization, do they still want a right of first refusal?
What we've done since this news first came around is we've been looking at our options, and we feel at the time our lease entitles us to a renewal.
Understood.
And what we'd like is to get a little breathing room, kind of step back, and I think both groups should do exactly that. Think about this, and let us renew the lease, and we'll review our options, and hopefully in that time we can sit across the table from the city and we can work something out the way this should have come down to begin with. And that's all we're asking.
I hear you. Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. From that, we'll move to our consent calendar. Pleasure of the council. Councilor Corey?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Is there any further discussion? None appearing. Do I hear a call for the question?
Call for the question.
Question's been called for. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. I'm assuming they're all that voted. Motion passes. And with that, we move to new business, which is under Section 8. And with this, we are considering to approve a credit in the amount of $14,000 to Cal Portland Municipal Services account. Who do we have carrying this, please?
And Mayor,
Forward, press the button on the right and identify yourself.
Mayor,
Yes,
on this one, we'll tag team in if it works.
thank you.
If I can support, Caleb's been doing the biggest part of this, but it's also been a whole team effort
Thank you.
between.
Caleb Lippard, Assistant Finance
you.
Director for City of Newberg. In March of 2016, 2-inch water meter was installed at the 2808 Winooski Road, which is where Cal Portland resides, their operations. And when that meter was installed, miscommunication happened between staff, and instead, so this was an additional meter at that site. They already had a 3/4 inch meter there. A 2-inch meter was placed there, and when it was installed, like I said, there was miscommunication. The staff, our billing staff, thought it was a replacement meter and not an additional meter to that site. So for about 15 months, we went without billing Cal Portland for the water usage through that 2-inch meter. When we were made aware of this, we met with Cal Portland staff, management, and through that discussion, they had asked if we would grant them a credit for the water usage for the calendar year 2016. So through those discussions and calculations and talking with, what the consumption was, we came to about a $14,000 credit that you see on the request for council action. And so I'm recommending that council makes a motion to approve this credit of $14,746.76 to apply to Cal Portland's municipal services account.
Questions for Caleb? Councilor Bacon? Councilor Johnson?
How much is their water bill now that we know, and the leak has been fixed,
So
for that same amount of time, for instance?
about $26,000.
Councilor Johnson? You have a follow-on? Councilor Johnson?
So I'm curious, of the 14,000, how much of that was the leak? Do we know how much was the leak and how much, or is that just what we calculated out as their usage?
That's what we calculated out as their usage.
Okay, and so, follow on.
Follow-on?
If we had been tracking and they would have known there was a leak, normally we refund, 2 months?
Yes.
Is that correct? But because we didn't have the billing information, okay. Follow on.
Follow-on?
And then, did we initially bill Cal Portland and then they came back and said, whoa, whoa, whoa? Or was it more of a discussion where the city went out and said, oops?
So, yeah, so when The error was discovered. We did go ahead, so there was 15 months that the meter was not read. And so at the end of that 15 months, we got a lump sum consumption amount, so we didn't know, each month what it was. So initially, we took that and did like a flat line consumption amount for each month. It was the same consumption, and calculated what their bill would have been, and then we went ahead and did place those charges on their account. And then, to be honest with you, I don't remember if we reached out to them at the same time or if they called us. I mean, we were planning on reaching out to them regardless. I don't remember the timeline, though.
And final follow-up, and this, I think, would be for Joe. Can you explain to me a little more about how this error is being addressed, so we don't face this again in the future?
Mayor and Council, Johanna. Yep, it's covered in the memo, but basically, so we messed up for this 15-month period. We didn't bill them. And so the first thing was, let's get the amount and contact them and sit down and say, we have a problem here, and how can we solve it? That's with the current bill. For the long term, and there's 3 things that are in the memo to say, how can we do this to make sure that this will never happen again? And so there's a couple things. One is using our existing system and an improved system that we have with billing and GPS, is that we're touching every single meter that we have, making sure that the meter has a GPS number on it. And you heard a little bit of this the last time we did this software. So that we keep track, and we're taking 2 systems, the billing system and where you record the water use with the database that we have and the GPS to say, and every month now we'll be monitoring that to make sure, is there anything that we missed that both the location and say, oh, something strange happened this month where it was the same use. And we were already going to go down that line, because if you notice, sometimes in Facebook, a person will come out and they'll be on Facebook and they'll say, gee, my water use was the same for 2 months, and then all of a sudden it jumped, like the city picked up. We wanted to stop that already, but that's being solved by this problem. So it's going to each one of the meters, and there's 6,500 meters. Does that sound right? About that. So we have 6,500 of them, and most of them we all know, but we're verifying each of those, then taking the finance billing system with the meters in the field system and reconciling them every single month to make sure that happens. And so that will prevent us from the past. I think there was a question whether you had previously or something. Well, what about a person in town that could this happen? Perfect storm, if you want, or the horrible storm with this one is the company moved their location. And that was part of the confusion, that they moved to a new location to their site. They were, if you remember, they were the ones that we traded for the maintenance yard and all that. And you could make a case that, oh, well, they should have seen that their water use was, they were getting a great deal and come forward. Well, one is that puts the obligation on the user, so kind of get that. The other one is they didn't have a past use to judge by. Now, they're in the business of using water at their other sites, so you could suggest, well, they should have seen that, but they didn't. They didn't bring it to us, and it wasn't until we came forward. And we actually we were in this 2017, and we said, under any of the circumstances, 17, you've got your money in your budget right now, and you need to pay for that. And they said, fine. So, there's nothing magic about this. We want to be fair to a user. This is an important industrial user, but every user that uses our water is important. Where it wouldn't happen on like a home residential is that first, our system was already robust enough that we think we know where all the meters are of the homes, just the way they're set up. And that's also one of the reconciliations that we've done with GPS, is to look at, because there's an address that's associated with water meters, and we say, well, if there's an address, shouldn't there be a meter there to reconcile that? And we wouldn't go 15 months. The person would be shut off first, or if they didn't go on there, it's just easier for us to track.
Councilor McKinney, Councilor Bacon.
Two questions. How did Cal Portland feel about this settlement of 14,746? Are they happy about this, or are they still sad?
They're fine with it.
Okay. And the second question is it within our computing system, are we capable of recognizing these abnormalities in the future?
Do you want to answer it, or have Jay answer
I
it?
don't
Both
quite
of you?
understand this question.
Okay. So if I understand what your question is, how do we reconcile every month to make sure that we don't have some huge water use? And the answer is yes. You want? And why we're doing this is that we, and this is pretty typical, but we have a billing section that's within finance. Okay, that sends out your bill, but they have to get information from someone to create the bill. That's from Public Works. So what Jay has done is gotten a little task force of us all together and marry up the financial system that Caleb and the billing people are responsible, along with Matt, with the people that are out in the field with the hand readers and making sure where it is. That's the readers. With a third system, this is how we ensure that this will not happen again. So we have a GIS system. GIF and all these maps that are done, those are based on putting placement of everything from pipes to meters. And it's the combination of the three that get, as we're all done, will be ensuring that this doesn't happen again, because there's 3 checks on it.
Jay Harris, Public Works Director. Joe's correct. So the Public Works Department reads meters every month. It's downloaded from finance, and we drive around, and it takes us about 2 days to collect all the reads. We're retrieving a signal from an MXU. It's a battery-powered sending unit. It's mounted to the meter off of the digital part of the register. When we say, hey, we're driving down the street, we can pick up about 500, maybe 1,000 feet away worth of meters. So the reconciliation is we have track of all the sending units out in the field. When we install a new one, they go into our database. And we're comparing that database to the finance records every month. So they check every month that the MXUs we're reading, they're actually assigned a billing in the finance section. Moving forward, though, this requires standard operating procedures and written instructions for people and that sort. In the next year, with the implementation of the cartograph system that you adopted at your last meeting, it's likely we're going to have a computer-aided process in there through a meter install where different divisions are going through different checking, and ultimately, the finance system will be billing, and the maintenance section will be checking every month through the cartograph system is what our goal is. And I hope to have something running that in the next year or so. For right now, we feel that we got it adequately taken care of.
Councilor Bacon?
So, help me here. The meter that was getting read was the original house meter, like where the office is now?
Yes.
Yes. So the meter that wasn't getting read was the...
Cement mixer, 2-inch meter.
I have a really hard time. I'm believing that somebody didn't notice their $100 water bill was substantially lower than it's ever been before. Substantially lower by the numbers you've given us. They don't even have anyone taking showers there. It's an office. So I really struggle with them saying that they couldn't. When you pay your bills, I'm sure you notice if your electric has gone down. So I'm really uncomfortable with this.
Mayor Andrews.
Counselor, or, yes, staff.
Public
Okay.
Works Director Harris. One thing you got to remember is Cal Portland purchased, where the maintenance yard is now, we purchased that from them. It was the former, I think it was Newberg Concrete property. They acquired it in another transaction. Well, the plant was shut down, so they acquired the site. They might have ran it real minimal. They didn't use much water there. They built a new factory out on Winooski Road and reutilized an existing meter there. We also set a bigger meter for them. So they really hadn't produced concrete in this area per se. And in the year, it was their first full year of operation, or it might even been a partial year of operation. They were coming online. They didn't send out a lot of concrete. They're getting their legs up and running. They closed down their Tualatin facility, and now it's all coming out of this particular one. So at the end, there was a lot of moving parts to this, and in the end, staff made an error of not properly reassigning the 2-inch meter. But on Cal Portland's behalf, though, they had a lot going on also with closing of a Tualatin facility, relocating a machine from the Newberg, from our maintenance yard over, reconstructing a site, going through design review, paying a bunch of fees, doing all that. So there's a lot of complexities into the situation.
Anything further from the staff?
No, other than say there's no easy answer to this one. We want to be, we're accountable for making a mistake. We would fix it for the future. So now I can say this will not happen again. What's magic about the number? Yeah, did somebody use it? Yes. Did they acknowledge that? Yes. They also acknowledged, and we said, well, we didn't catch it until part of the way into 2017. And they said, okay, we'll pay that. Never mind, I think it was splitting the difference. But yes, they used it. And I will suggest to you that in the past, some of these things have been fixed administratively. You never saw it. So it was by conscience that we brought that to you, because something both this size and just the whole issue of trying to bring it up, we're embarrassed by making a mistake of not catching it. Yes. But we also thought this is the way to get it up, and then for you to say, yes, you like it, or modify it or something. Cal Portland would be glad their district manager we met before would come before you. But we said, well, let's wait and see what the council does.
Question for staff, if I may. We have the lack of billing, but there's also been a leak. And we have a policy when leaks are determined, there are credits available to the user. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, fine. That's fine. Does this 14,000 that we're looking at is applying a credit to them? Does that include also the offset for the leak? Does that include the leak?
As in, are we crediting them for the
Yes.
leak as well? No.
We're not crediting them for the leak?
No. And they're aware of that.
We're billing for the leak.
They have been billed for the total amount of consumption.
And we're not giving them a credit on the leak?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
So you can make the case, we're giving them credit for a year that they're, or part of a year that they're not getting, so you can say, well, that's part of your credit. We did not offer to go over and beyond forgiving 2016 with then an additional credit for the leak.
Thank you. Anything further from staff? Any further questions? Councilor Johnson?
The leak versus the 14,000. Do we know how much the leak cost?
The typical, so the policy of the city is that if someone comes to us and says, hey, my bill was way up for these last two and got a leak and now I'm fixing it, the city credits an account up to 2 months. Since we don't know when this leak happens, because I knew you would ask this, is that you can take a low month or a high month. A low month would be about 450, because the concrete business is seasonal. A low amount would be $450 a month, so times 2, that'd be $900. A higher month, which is when they're in production, $1,500, so it's $3,000. So when you say that didn't credit it, well, we're crediting them for 9 months' worth of use. So we did not, and they know that we're not offering, and sometimes even businesses don't know that they've got that as an option. So it's either 3,000 or 900 are built into this, that they're not getting extra credit on top of forgiving or crediting 9 months' worth of service.
Any other questions, comments? You have before you a recommendation to move approval of a credit in the amount of $14,746.76 to apply towards Cal Portland's municipal services account. Pleasure of the council. Councilor Corey.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the action.
Your motion is to
Approve a
move
credit
to approve the credit.
in the amount of $14,746.76 to Cal Portland's municipal services account.
Thank you. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded to approve a credit in the amount of $14,746.76 to Cal Portland's municipal services account. Is there any further discussion?
Mr.
Discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, sir. The piece of this that I'm hung up on is when I talked to Mr. Hanna today, I asked if I, through dark magic, didn't pay my water bill for a year and my water wasn't shut off, would I still be on the hook for that amount of water that I used? And the answer was yes. I'm the type of guy that when I go to the grocery store and I don't feel the receipts right and I get home and I take a look at it and I feel like I got a free gallon of milk, I'm the guy that drives back to the store and pays for the milk. Now, in this case, for me, I think it's really hard for us as a council to sit up here and talk for, half an hour about how we have budgetary issues, and then 10 minutes later go, well, that 14 grand, we really don't need that. Now I recognize that's in a separate fund and it has nothing to do with the general fund. And however, I think that we need to be consistent in looking at our fees and our if you use a service, you need to pay for that service. And that's kind of where I come down on this one. I don't have any ill will toward Cal Portland, and I don't know much about them. But I do know that if you use a service, you got to pay for the service. And so that's why I'm not going to be supporting the motion.
Councilor Corey.
I'll follow on to Councilor Johnson. You did come up with part of the problem if you were a citizen or I was the citizen. What you didn't mention was that the city neglected to read the meter for whatever reason, and there was a leak. Would you have to pay that year? We don't know, because I don't know that it's happened with residential, and probably not, to be honest. I think we would, the staff would have another session with that citizen, whoever it might be, and make some kind of an agreement, whatever it might be. So I think the credit would come to a citizen the same way. If it was a mistake on the city. This is a mistake the city did. And so, we're crediting for something that the city messed up on. If we did it with a citizen, I would expect the city to give a credit to that citizen as well.
Councilor Bacon, City Manager.
I actually, when I moved, I didn't get a water bill for 3 months. And I went to the city and said, I didn't get a water bill for 3 months, because that's weird. And I paid it. No one, and I would expect to pay it because I used it. Unlike Cal Portland, I didn't make any money using my water. So I'm really uncomfortable with the full amount. I might be willing to go if it's half that amount, but I also can't support it because it's a business. They use the water to make money. Was it our mistake? Yes. But business people, when you don't get a water bill. When you don't get an electric bill. You know it. They have accountants. They would, would you notice if we didn't get a water bill? Yeah, you would. So I can't support it. I would do it for half. I would support it for half.
City Manager, Councilor McKinney.
So, Mayor, Councilmember Johnson is accurate when I said, yeah, we probably wouldn't pay it. But it's also true, we haven't had this kind of a situation before. So probably a better answer would be, we would not administratively, give a credit for that kind of a period, and we'd come back. So it's likely we'd have this same discussion with you over that house if it came up. So the idea is to let you make the tough decisions. This one's a tough one. So by setting this, are we kind of setting a precedent? Yeah, presumably. If somebody had this happen, what I'm saying is the things in place, and I'll stand out here and say, no, it will not happen again. And it's not likely to even happen in the residential even from the past. And it is also true that, if somebody's using water, wouldn't you think that they would see that and come in? That's probably true too. So it's a matter of recognizing a mistake, stopping it from happening in the future, and is a business different than a home? Yes, they're using this to make money and to create jobs for here. We like that. We want to support industrial, but of course, a single home is important too. It's just relative size.
Councilor McKinney, Councilor Johnson.
Mr. Mayor, Madam President, it sounds as if this is likely to fail. Denise, are you suggesting a renegotiation rather than continue with this measure?
If it fails, yes.
Councilor Johnson?
I'd like to amend the motion. Okay. You think that's good? Okay.
No, I don't appreciate that crosstalk. I said, let's let it fail. I heard you. I don't appreciate the crosstalk. Let it fail. You have a motion before you. The motion is to adopt the credit for $14,746.76 for Cal Portland's municipal services account. The motion has been made. It's been seconded. It has not been withdrawn. So let's do a division of the House.
Councilor Johnson? Councilor Corey? Councilor McKinney? Councilor Bacon? Councilor Essen? Mayor Andrews?
No.
I have 3, 4 no, and 2 yes.
Motion fails. And so I think we need to have you go back to Cal Portland and renegotiate that and have them assume a little more responsibility on the part that they hadn't had. No, I think that's a direction. I don't think we need that as a direction. And with that, then we are moving to, I got to catch up on my, 2, 4, and 1, right? Is that correct? 2, 4, and 1? Two, 4, 1. Okay, thank you. And with that, we move to our council business, and that brings up Sue Ryan.
Hello, Happy New Year. So I started my reminders earlier this year for the Statement of Economic Interest, and you have a letter in your packet that's just a reminder to put on your calendars. Your annual filing period will be open from March 15th to April 15th, but OGEC, I did call and talk to them, and they just reminded that if people want to go in now, just to make sure their username and their password work, and they remember what their username and their passwords are, that now before March 15th is a good time to practice. I do not have your username or password once I've set you up and you've gone in, remember that, in 2016, and you've created your own, then they have it. So if for some reason you try it and it doesn't work, then you will need to contact the Oregon Government Ethics Commission to reset it. But I just am starting earlier this year, and next month you'll get another reminder. And if you need any individual help, let me know. Just a reminder, staff can't fill the forms out for you. We can just help you with the technology, like if you need a computer or you're having trouble getting into your account. So we'll have the counselor cubicle set up again as previously with the binder and then a laptop upon request if you need one. And this message is also being sent to the Planning Commission and the, thank you, Historic Preservation Commission, as well as the city manager and the city judge. That was it.
Any questions for Sue on the SEI? Executive session on the 11th. Mr. Councilor Eston, you have not responded. Are you going to be there? Say again? It will be in the Police Department Library. I need to catch up here in just a moment. That's at 7 p.m. And then I'm reminding you, we all have the work session next Tuesday. That's at 1800. That's at 6. That's here. That's here. Am I correct? Here. All right. Is there any other business for the council at this time? No. Okay. Councilor, we'll get Councilor Essen and Councilor Bacon.
I presented a bill to the city for all the meetings that were listed under our agenda, and I guess that's being reviewed. But I wanted to apologize to Sue for expecting her to try to deal with that. I knew that was going to cause an issue because we've never listed that before, and that put her in an awkward position to try to explain to me. Her explanation was excellent, and I think I may need to forward it to everyone. But sometimes when I'm trying to move something forward, I don't consider necessarily how the staff deals with that. And so what I did is make it as a two-part thing. I just asked for what we normally get, and then I went ahead and made that an addendum asking for the meetings that we list where there are agendas and minutes and that kind of thing. And I think I'm right, and I guess we're going to have some sort of discussion about that, or you're going to come back with a report, and that's all going to happen. But it just brings home to me how important we take staff time into consideration, because she was already buried, I remember that day, and pretty upset with me. And for that, I apologize for putting anything on that.
I would just like to add that I was not upset. We're very busy, and if I don't know someone's coming and they want to have a conversation with me, I may have other commitments to other employees or the public So it's also something really I'm not a policymaker. I carry out your actions, so it's really a policy discussion the council needs to have at a council level with all of you participating, because it's not up to me to decide to change how it's been interpreted in the past by myself for just one individual. So I believe it's been bumped back to the council rules subcommittee, and so it will be coming back to you. Joe's got it on the calendar, I think right now for the first meeting in February, to look at reconciling some of the past issues.
Counselor Bacon?
I just had a question about the Mid-Willamette Council of Governments annual meeting dinner. Is that something that is going to go through you, or do you want us to individually mail it? Or are we doing a table, or what?
Is it for the
Yeah.
I think Dawn Karen is handling those,
Okay.
but I think she's only signed up the mayor so far. So I did not see that. They don't always copy the clerk.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are you interested in going? And get a hold of Dawn. Yeah. Any others? Go ahead. It's moved and seconded. Do we adjourn? Happy New Year, guys. Move it to adjourn. That's right.